agree with that, Miss Jolena. And I know from reading your book, you talked about so much abuse, whether it was physical, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, domestic violence, and being a victim of that myself from childhood all the way to adulthood, right? Experiencing that, I know being a grown woman, 28 years old, reading your book, I found my voice in reading your book. So when I read it and I think about all of the children or the young girls or even young boys now, right? Because it's happening to everybody, right? Who read your book, what do you want them to take back from reading your book? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to express after reading those words?
Um, I really want them to be encouraged. Anything that they have been through, because you know what, some people, if there are kids that's actually experiencing that, kids really don't have a voice. That's why I allow my kids to have a voice. Kids don't have a voice, so um, even with, I'm gonna bring up the COVID situation with the kids being home and not being able to get out. And sometimes, like, school was my way out. You know, that's like your break away from home. And I found myself just crying one day, just in worrying about the kids that's out there that are unable to escape what they have been going through. So when it comes to kids, there's only so much that I can do. But if you're an adult, a young adult or a teenager, and this has happened, um, I just want them to. I just want to encourage them to actually find someone that they could trust. Because I felt like I couldn't find anyone that I can trust. Um, find someone that you can trust and let them know that you're actually experiencing those things. Um, my purpose is to reach out to people and let them know that this is actually going on, because it happens, and our culture is actually taught to be private and hide the situation. Don't speak about what is actually going on, you know. So with that being said, my purpose is to allow people to actually speak out so we can stop this cycle. Because it's not only my family who has experienced a cycle, that this cycle, it's other people. Because it's actually people who purchased my book and reached out to me in private and said, this has happened to me. So I want us to start speaking out on it, being honest, being transparent about this, what's going on, so we can stop this from happening to our kids that's coming along. With that, so that's really my purpose, and to encourage them to, if they're in a situation that they can't get out of, just to keep the faith and continue to turn to God, and He will see you through. I believe that God sends people your way, down your path, to help you, and you guys are a prime example of that. I definitely needed empowering women like you guys, because I was always the woman encouraging and motivating the next person. You know, I was always the one saying, you're beautiful, or let's do this, or you could do this, you could do that. And when I met women like you guys that gave it to me, I was like, wow, I didn't even know how to accept it. My God, like you, Sade, when I hand you my book before you even read it, you praised me. And I was like, I was in awe, because I never received no one give me that compliment like that. And I feel like we just need to be more like that, more open, more loving. It's just so much I can go on about this topic, but definitely to stay encouraged and turn into a trusting someone that you can trust.
I agree. I agree. When I see that you had wrote the book, it blew my mind, because I had never been connected to somebody who would just put their personal feelings out there like that. And that was something that I had always wanted to do. So to see someone young, just like me, African American, successful, and not afraid to share the most intimate details of her life and put it on paper, you blew my mind, and you encouraged me, and you reminded me to get back on my path, and that it was okay to do what God was calling me to do. right? I'm a firm believer that we don't go through things for ourselves. We go through things for other people, right? But we have to be in a position to where we are confident enough to share what we're going through to be able to help someone else. And you help me, and hopefully my story can help someone else, and it'll just be a ripple effect, right?
Yes. Amen to that.
Okay, I think I'm finally ready.
Come on, sis.
I had to put it all down. Uh, I want to ask this question. This is really why. Oh, better not start back up. This is really why I wanted to. This is really why I started to cry because, you know, when I read your book, like Sade said, like I'm sure the world right now, mind blown. And also, I agree with Miss Jolena. It's like I found my voice as well, but and nothing to do with the book, but where I'm still struggling at. And if you could help me and answer this question, and hopefully it answers the Facebook question that LP put in. I am still going through being so numb to it, all the things that I've been through. And it's just like, I feel like I haven't really dealt with it because I keep holding it in. And, you know, in moments I can share it with whoever, you know, when I feel like, okay, it's time to share it, a little bit of it. But I feel like, you know, just even earlier, like when I do think about it, if something reminds me of it, good or bad, the tears are like, it lasts a whole year. You know, it's like I'm crying now, the amount of time I've kept it in. So it's just like, how do you not just, I don't want to say embrace it. I don't even think embrace is it, but how can I don't know. Y'all, I don't know if y'all can fill in.
Cope is what you try. How do you cope with it? It's going to be there. I think it's not going. I am 42 years old and I'm still dealing with it. I'm still dealing with it, or what have you. It's all. I'm still coping. I thought I until I read her book. Until I read her book, I thought I had okay. I'm okay. You know, I've dealt with it, but I hadn't. I hadn't dealt with it. Like you said, you just push it in the back. You just push it in the back is what you do. You push it in the back is what you do. Yeah, that's my song. You push it in the back. Gotta boss up, you know. You push it toward the back so you don't have to deal with it, but that's not healthy. And I realized that. I started to yell at my kids. I started you know, everything frustrated me. You know, I would snap just like that or what have you. So I started going to the VA and going to get help, you know, is what I started to do. And what I still do is what because you have to have some type of outlet, and there's nothing wrong with going to speak to a professional,
Yeah.
so that you can deal with your normal day life, because it's still going to be there. It's still, I struggle just like when you started to speak away, and when Ashley was speaking, everything she was speaking of, I'm dealt with. I'm still dealing with it, and it just brought back the floodgates or what have you. But you have to cope. And I say, and because I got them boys upstairs, I know that I am all they got. I have to be okay for them so that I can raise them or what have you. So it is still a struggle daily. Like you said, sometimes I have high days, sometimes I have low days or what have you. And you know, someone asked me a question that's in my family, and I guess no one really hears me speak about my family. You probably don't even know if I have sisters or brothers, because that's back there. So I don't normally discuss it. So somebody asked me, hey, you know, do you think of the, you know, times we had? Do it come across your mind? No, I don't. I've blocked it to where when I think of my childhood, I can't speak of a happy moment that I've ever had. Now, I may have had one, but because of what's happened, I've blocked it out. And when I say that I can remember, people say, you can't remember back then. You can't remember way back. When something's traumatic that has happened to you, regardless of what age you are, you will remember it. I remember everything, everything. I may have blocked some details, but
Yeah.
reading your book, it's like it's just happening all over again. It's more vivid and more alive because it's coming back to the forefront. But
Let
you,
me ask you, G, um, whatever the situation is, um, or if it pertains to a person, have you spoken directly to that person? Are you able to speak to the person? Okay, okay.
Mm. I don't I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. There are a few people actually, um, from situations in the past, and I never thought about it, and that's what I'm saying. Says Miss Jolene, that was, trust me, right on, like right on point in what you said. However, it's the blocking for me is what I'm saying. Like I'm not throwing out anything y'all are telling me. I'm saying I get the therapy, I get everything we can think of, right? And know to help our mental. What I'm saying is I don't want to say what more or what else, but I guess what else can I do to to not just put it behind me, because I feel like it's so behind me and I act so normal, but I'm not okay. And I have not been okay for a very long time. I'm not saying I want to get up and just be sad and boo-hoo and be depressed all day. What I'm saying is I don't want, I don't know, like, I don't want to say go back in time, relive it, but go back and like deal with it for real and turn back around to today. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like I've always blocked it and I'm still blocking it today. And if I talk about it, I may get emotional, or I can just maybe talk about it casually. It's almost like I'm ignoring what has happened and I really have never dealt with it.
You remember when I said that I actually hadn't dealt with it either? It's kind of different stages. I buried it away, and I actually had to come across that person, and I could not even make eye contact, or I don't even feel comfortable with speaking to them. So until the time when I actually started to really heal from it is by me opening up and letting people know, being honest of how I feel and who I am and what happened to me. Being honest, being transparent, and speaking about it was part of my healing. It because it was hard. I started to wonder how would people see me. What would they think about me? And I just released it in the book. This is only a small portion of it that I released in the book, and I began to heal. Let me tell you, I'm still dealing with this today. Even though I did that, I still deal with it today, and I think I'm gonna forever deal with it. It's like Jolena said, you learn to cope with it. But what I'm doing is using what I've been through to at least stop it from happening to someone else or helping someone else that has been through it. I blamed myself for a long time for what happened. But once you realize that it's not your fault, it's not your fault. I'm sure you're like me. We have a wall that we put in protection to shield us from protecting us from all we've been through. But basically, just deal with it. Be open about it. Let the people know what actually happened. I mean, speak to people more. We spoke in private. You can speak to me in private. I'm open to you at any time. Whatever it is for you to actually go through the process and just feel more, just know that it's okay. And I feel like just being transparent, just being open about it. I don't know if it's maybe you're hiding it from some people that you're actually just not letting some people know, because that's what I did. But once you get to those people and be honest with them and let them know what really happened, maybe that will just open doors for you to start healing through what you actually experience. Um, I think just being true to who you are, that's what I tell myself. I have to be true to who I am. I have to be true and honest and say, hey, this happened and it's okay. Because it was not your fault and there's nothing you've done. Don't blame yourself for anything that you've been through. You know what I'm saying? So just that's part of the ways how I cope. How I cope with it. And being on here with you guys, I dread this. I published my book since my book was actually published since January. I didn't let people know till April. Why? Because I was ashamed. Because I knew it was going to reach people who knew me. I knew it was going to reach people who knew me personally. And I was ashamed of what they would have thought of me. And here I am with these people who love me, who knew me for 5 years or more, a loving church that just took me in and received me and was like, oh my God, I've known you for this long and I could not imagine you've been through that. And yet and still the people who was right by my side when I was going through it, looking at me as, you know, so it's kind of like you have to learn, try to figure out what is best for you. I realized that what is best for me is to let them think and believe whatever it is that they gotta believe. Because they're, you know, some people just not gonna be in acceptance of what actually happened, but you have to do what's best for you. It's just gonna take some time of figuring it out. Have that conversation with God. If you want to talk to someone else who has actually experienced it too, that may help.
So, so in reading, I was reading your book and I was just kind of going through and I was like, okay, woo, this is really, really sad. And then I got to the chapter, I want to say it was like life of the party life, and you were talking about some different things that took place. You know, you were here and your mom was just like out in the dating world and all of that. And I started realizing that this type of storytelling and giving context to storytelling is really what liberated you. And it was great because when I had a doctor's appointment that next week, and my doctor said, you know, you're having a biological response
Mhm.
because you refuse to deal with the things that you are wrestling with emotionally. And so that is when I went back to the beginning of your book and I started reading it again. And I decided, I said, okay, Ashley wrote her story. I'm going to write mine. Now, mind you, G, nobody is probably ever going to see what I wrote on that paper. But Ashley's example showed me that I was dealing with attachment distress. And I needed what my therapist calls emotional flexibility, so that every time I started experiencing, because I was married to a pastor who absolutely broke my heart, who absolutely embarrassed me, who absolutely, it was a lot. It was a lot, right? And it was a lot so fast. And I don't even, it's out there, but I was just like, man, I don't even want to talk about it. I remember telling Sade, I was like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, I don't want to open up about this. I don't want to cry about this. But the truth is, you know, there's an emotional response there, but if we don't take care of it, like Ms. Jolena said, it shows up in other places. And so I just wanted to add that I feel like, just like Ashley showed us by writing her book, by telling her story and not running away from her story, by even doing this and just sharing that she's uncomfortable with this, you're gonna have to probably do what I did. I had to write an obituary and actually grieve my hurt. I had to grieve the things in that situation that would never be. I had to grieve the things in the situation that were no longer going to be. And I just had to just grieve my disappointments, because I will not be reaching out. I will not be connecting. I pray God's best for all parties involved. However, it's not healthy for me to return to that space, but it doesn't mean that God doesn't have greater for me. And it doesn't mean that God doesn't want me to do great things on the other side of that experience. And if I didn't deal with that hippocampus is a part of your brain that stores all of your memories. And when you think you've done filing, bam, that file cabinet opens up and you're like, man, why am I mad? I'm upset. I can't even explain it. I'm not responding to text messages. I don't even know why. I'm not answering calls. What is wrong with me? I am not myself. And it's that hippocampus, and it's because we refuse to deal with the things that we stored away, and then we start having this biological response. And so I just wanted to add, like, that reading that chapter, I made it to the party chapter. I was like, let me go back and let me start again. And let me really, really read this, because a lot of times we try to breeze past things to make ourselves feel comfortable. But the thing that attracted all of us to this book, it's just the fact that Ashalee is so candid, that she was so specific, that she said everything, and she wasn't trying to dress it up or make anybody look bad or even make anybody look good. She just said, this is what I experienced. It hurt me. It hurt me deeply. I'm disappointed. But on the other side of that is God's hope. And we know that God's hope is there, but I think that actual telling the story, this is my story. This is what let me down. This is what broke my heart, broke me down to tears. I had to isolate for this. It hurt me. It cost me. And other people are being impacted because I didn't deal with it. And so I think that is what, I know we probably haven't even gotten to that part of the conversation. I'm sorry if I rushed us, but that is what this book did for me. Look, we ain't trying to villainize nobody. There are no villains, because our stories aren't even about us. Our stories about, Christ on the inside of us. There are no villains. But in order for us to get to what God has for us, we gotta deal with the story. We can't, Lord, heal my heart, and we don't want to talk about it. Lord, resolve me and prepare me for the husband you have for me. But I refuse to address what the last one did. Lord, prepare me to be a mother. But I refuse to say, I biologically experienced a miscarriage. Those aren't things you want to talk about. And those aren't things you want to say out loud, because those aren't things we brag about on Facebook, right? But those are still the things that they're a part of us, and they're part of our story. And sometimes they're part of how we treat other people. So thank you for that, Ashalee. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. G, I want to go back and because I want to let you guys know what we go through. What I realize is it's not about us. Keep that in mind. It's not about us. Because look at you. We don't know what you went through, and it doesn't show. So use that. Because God wants to use you. He chose you to actually go through that situation, because he knew you would be strong enough to actually overcome it. You're surrounded by girls. You're a coach of 3 different teams, like 3 track, all these girls. Your strength, what you went through, has strengthened you. It's okay to have moments and cry about it. I still do. I look like I don't, but I do. And that's okay. That is still part of your healing too. But guess what? You overcame it for a reason. I told you about your book. Everyone has a book, because the people I reach is that's one crowd that I help. But what about the people you could reach? You and I are reaching different people. So use it to reach out to those who God has in your corner to reach out. That's what I believe that's for. And even still today, when I go through something, it hurts. But you know what I start telling God? Baby, when I come out of this one, I'm gonna just be better, because I just keep getting better.
I agree. Actually, I agree. I think you really have to, embrace it. I know for me, just a little bit of my story. When I was 16, I fell head over heels for somebody I shouldn't have. And I ended up trusting somebody I shouldn't have. And what that led to is me being away from my family, in a whole different city, on the streets. I found myself in prostitution. I was on drugs, walking up and down the streets, living a terrible, terrible life as a child. And so when I got out of that situation and I had to transition back into the world, because I'm like, okay, I went through this trauma of multiple people taking advantage of my body. How do I get back into, how do I transition and back into the real world, right? Going to high school, going to school, getting a job, being a wife, being a parent, being a mother, without thinking about everything that happened to me. Every time I closed my eyes, I would see different men, right? Or I would see just traumatic scenarios that happened to me while I was on the streets that I had blocked out. They would just keep coming back to me. All of a sudden, I'd just be silent and somebody would ask, "Where did you go?" And I would just have these like episodes of traumatic things that happen. So my healing came from really embracing that. And it sounds terrible when I say it, but I had to tell myself, okay, if I'm out here on the streets and I'm walking the streets at night selling my body, how could I flip this? What is this for? And what I learned was, if I can do that, then I can go to corporate America and I can sell anything, right? And so my healing came from embracing that tragedy and flipping it into something. If I could do that at night or in the daytime, as painful as it was to my body, as tragic as that was, I could sell a window, I could sell a door, I could sell a pen, I could sell ice to an Eskimo, right? It sounds crazy, but my healing came from that. And I went from being a prostitute to literally being $1 million sales consultant and being in a position to where I can help other women and pave the way for other women to take the trauma that they had been to and flip it and make something from it. So I would just say, really, really, really forgive yourself and know that whatever happened to you, it happened for a reason, right? And embrace it and use that to grow yourself.
When she said forgive yourself, you also you need to forgive the individual. I had to, and you know what, I really don't even actually think I even thought about forgiving the individuals. I only focus on my mother, who was supposed to have been there to protect me. I should have had her love and her protection and did not have that. And I had to realize, you don't forgive them for them, you forgive them for you, so that you can move on and to begin to heal, is how that works. And actually, what your book did for me was that it started my healing. I thought I thought I was good. I thought I had forgiven my mom. I thought I was done. But when I read your book, it opened the floodgates, is what it did. It opened the floodgates, and I had to say out, and even if you have to say it out loud, I forgive them. I forgive you. Because it's time for you to heal. It's time for you to start healing, or what have you. I didn't grow up in the traditional sense, or what have you. I was a ward of the state of Missouri until I was 18 years old. The Missouri is the one that signed on the dotted line for me to come into the military, not my foster parent or anything. It was Missouri who signed the dotted line, because I was a ward of the state of Missouri until I was 18 years old. My mom and dad went to prison when I was younger. They eventually got us back, but then taken away again for the things that happened. I had a sister that I never knew of because she was killed by either my mom or dad, is what they say, but I don't know, the truth. There's so much that you deal with, and people think, like I said, that you don't know, or that you can't remember, but you do. You remember everything. And until you forgive those individuals, you're not going to begin to heal. Your healing starts when you forgive them, so that you can move on. I still have to do some forgiving, or what have you. The individuals, I've forgiven my mom. I've forgiven her, and I was glad I was able to do that. right before she died. Right before she died. God has a plan for you. In 2014, I came to Texas or what have you. I was looking for a new job. And when I came to Texas, and it was, God wouldn't have me come until November 2014. But, you know, like I said, I hadn't forgiven my mom. I wasn't disrespectful, even though what I went through, I wasn't disrespectful, but I knew how to be cold to you. I knew, you know, I was keep my distance. She would come into town for Thanksgiving. They said, "You coming over?" No, I'm not coming over. You know, I'm not going to associate. I distance myself from people. I distance myself and I stay to myself. It's how I cope with anybody, you know, being mean to me, or if you don't have good vibes about it, I just stick to myself is what I do. I'm considered a loner or what have you. So I actually, I actually talked to my mom or what have you, and I said, oh, whatever. I said some things or what have you, and she said, well, you should have told me. I said, I'm the child, you're the parent. You should have came to me. I'm the child. Even in my adult age, I told her. And in October of 2014, she died. Unexpected, but I was able to forgive her before she had died. And God wouldn't have me to move on to Texas until after that process had finished for me to move on down to here. But you have to forgive those who hurt you, not for them, but for you to even begin your process of healing. You need to do that if you have not done it.
Definitely, most definitely. Anyone else? Or LP?
I'm just soaking all of it in. I love y'all though.
We love you too. So we were gonna move on to how has my book helped you guys, and then kind of correlate on childhood experience. So I kind of got that from you guys a little, but if we can go to you, LP, if you can kind of voice how my book has helped you,